Welcome to the Financially Free Journey podcast, and I am your host, Courtney Dyer. Thank you once again for joining our podcast and learning all the different ways that you can have financial success, pay off debts, budget, plan for retirement, learn more about investing, and ultimately be on your financially free journey. And today we're going to be building off of our last episode where we discussed one of the most popular methods when it comes to paying off your debt, which is known as the snowball method. And today we're going to be comparing the snowball method with the avalanche method. And I want you to think about last week's episode, and I want you to compare and contrast the pros and the cons of both methods and determine for yourself which one is the most suitable and will bring you the most success. And before we go into the specifics of the avalanche method, I want to touch on why it's so important for us to be financially savvy and understanding why it's important to pay off our debt. And there's many people that have talked about the correlations of not only your financial health, but your mental and your psychological health when it comes to being in debt. And we know that debt is a common fact of life, especially in our American culture. And according to a 2015 report, it states that roughly 8 out of 10 Americans have debts. And of those Americans, the report also found that over 70% of them felt conflicted about their debt. They said that they would rather not have debt, but they see it as a necessity. And a similar percentage of people feel that some loans and credit cards have given them more opportunities in life. And so we know that these conflicted feelings reflect the fact that debt can be both good and bad. Good debt is a useful financial tool. It helps you do things that will improve your finances in the long run. Things like going to college or buying a house or even buying a business if you get that opportunity. But by contrast, bad debt is debt such as credit card debt that just weighs you down with interest payments, and it's not doing anything to increase your income. And this in turn does make you feel more dependent on borrowing on a regular basis just to get through the month. And it's trapping you in that endless cycle of debt. And we know that being stuck in debt, it's a trap and it ties up your money so you can't do the things that you would ultimately like to do with your money. And it affects are far more than just financial, as I mentioned. Over time, the constant pressure of debt can also damage your work, your health, your relationships. Freeing yourself from debt can make your life better in just about every way. So as I had just said, you have less stress, you're, more mentally present in relationships. There's so many different factors. You can retire early. You have less risk in your life. You have a better credit score. You have better job prospects. And, there's the mental health aspect, like less stress. And living with debt is a major source of stress. You worry constantly about how you're going to pay all your bills and what could happen if you lose your job. And the constant pressure of having to work to pay off debt while feeling guilty about spending money even on the smallest of pleasures, it grinds you down. And there was a study, and it was in 2013, and it was done at Northwestern University. And it found that adults in America with high levels of debt report overall stress levels about 20% higher than the average American. Other studies also found even stronger effects. For instance, there was a study in 2001, the Life Events Inventory Study, and it ranked the 100 life events based on how stressful they are. And getting into debt beyond means of repayment came in 5th overall, and it was ranked more stressful than losing your job, getting a divorce, or even becoming temporarily homeless. So getting rid of debt is like lifting a huge weight off of your chest. You no longer feel trapped, like you're constantly running in a hamster wheel. You can feel more easy about all of the decisions you make in your life. And with your thoughts no longer being locked into that constant pattern of worrying about money, you can now devote more energy to work, family, friends, hobbies, and pastimes you enjoy. So now that I've painted the picture of why focusing on paying off your debt is so critical to you, I want to go into the simple step-by-step plan of how to use the avalanche method to pay off your debt. Very simply put, you handle your debts in order from the highest interest rate to the lowest. And while you should still make the minimum monthly payments on all your debts, commit any extra money that you have to the one with the highest interest rate until it's paid off, and then just continue to move down the list. So for example, let's just say you have 3 outstanding debts. You've got a $1,000 balance with a 5% interest rate, a $2,500 balance with a 15% interest rate, and then a $10,000 balance with a 10% interest rate. If you are following the avalanche method, you're going to prioritize the $2,500 debt, and then you're going to move on to the $10,000 debt. So let's talk about the benefits of the avalanche method. So utilizing this method can help you get out of debt more quickly, and it can stretch your money further. By knocking out the highest interest rate debt first, it's going to help you save yourself some money in the long run. So if you have a lot of different outstanding debts, your various interest rates can end up costing you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars. So you end up spending less time paying off debt by utilizing this method. Hypothetically, the debt avalanche strategy, it's going to present you with the fastest, most efficient way to eliminate your debts. But there are some downsides and some cons that I feel do need to be put out there. As great as it sounds in principle, it's not as easy in practice. Sticking with the debt avalanche strategy does take a ton of discipline, and you may not see any of the benefits of paying off your debt for months, if not years, depending on how large the balance is. So getting out of debt can be as much of a psychological struggle as it is a financial one, and the process can take a mental toll on you. And although the debt avalanche is the most efficient strategy, it may not be the most rewarding or encouraging at times. And there was a study that actually shows that consumers who prioritize debts from their smallest to largest balances, aka the snowball method, as opposed to the interest rates, aka the avalanche method, had more success in ultimately eliminating their debts because they did have that immediate sense of win when you're paying off those small balances first. So for you to determine if the avalanche method is right for you, I want you to go to undebt.it. I mentioned this during the snowball episode, but it's a free resource online where you're able to create a free profile. They don't send you any unnecessary emails, and you're going to pop in all of your information on your current debt, and it's going to take 30 seconds, and it's going to pop out all the different options for you to choose from. It'll tell you if you go straight snowball, straight avalanche, or what I love, and this is so unique about undebt.it, is it's going to give you a mix and a variety. So depending on your debts and the interest rates and the balances, it will give you some options on mixes between the various methods of snowball versus avalanche. And there's one other method that I do feel is necessary to mention, and I do think it should be coupled with either the snowball or avalanche method, depending on how much of an issue this is for you. But this is called the tsunami method. And the tsunami method is really based off of any debts that you may have that emotionally impact you. And so, for example, let's say you have a family member that lent you $5,000 at a 0% interest rate. Now, it may not be the lowest balance that you have, and it is definitely not the highest interest rate, but it has the most emotional impact on you because it's put a strain on your relationship with that family member that you love. The tsunami method says to prioritize that debt first because it has so much more of a mental and psychological impact on you by being able to generate that relief and ultimately to be able to better strengthen that relationship if it has an emotional impact on you. So just food for thought to put in there and incorporate if you do have that as an issue that's a part of your debt profile. So thank you so much for listening today. And I do want to remind you that you can write in your questions and topics that you'd like to have covered in future episodes to the Financially Free Journey podcast at gmail.com. And I did have a few different questions come in regards to habits that can be incorporated into your daily routine that will help generate financial success. And so our next episode is going to be talking about some different financial or micro habits you can generate into your routine to help you generate some success when it comes to your finances and ultimately your financially free journey. So again, thank you for joining today, and I look forward to hearing from you next week. Have a great day.